Now, see, Nisjalita, hello, respected friends and relatives. Papal Khmatsan and the Haimit, Kelly Halson and Snet, Chucks Emerson. My ancestral name is Papal Khmat. My given English name is Kelly Hall, and I'm a Samish tribal member. And today's Amishkan Samish language breakdown is all about ways to ask questions in Samish language. We previously covered how to ask yes or no questions, and now we will talk about other question words that help us to ask questions with responses other than yes or no. So being able to ask questions in our language is a great way to start, using language in longer conversations. So I'll introduce some of the basic question words today, and we'll continue on with more question words in the future. Okay. Istet yoin, and let's begin. Okay, so in Amishkan, there are 6 question words that I'm going to go over today. So, you say the words with me. Wet, wet, wet is who. I also added san or sane, which is another way to say who in our language family, which is Northern Strait Salish. Okay, net, stang, 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 which means what? Chuntang, 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 which means when. I'll get to why this one's cool later in the video. Achain, 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 where. Aschwaning, 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 why or how. And this one is one you'll often hear me say when I'm greeting people. So, how are you? And then, queen, 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 which means how much or how many. So now I'm going to go over some examples of how to use each of these in phrases. Okay, so let's go over these question words with some examples, some sentence breakdowns, and how you might respond. So for wat, who, you could say, wat quan snet. This means, what is your name? You could respond with, for example, Kelly sunasnet. My name is Kelly. Take your name and insert it where I said my name, and that's how you'd say, my name is blank. You can also see I added a color-coded breakdown section, so let's get into that. We know that wat means who. The KW is what we call an invisible article. So this is used when you're talking about something that you can't visibly see. The en or un is a possessive pronoun, meaning your, and snet is the word for name. So this means who the your name, more directly translated. So now there's another way to use wat. It refers to a person or people in the collective. But in this context, it isn't a question word. So you have probably heard me say makwat. This means everyone. So mak is a word that means all or every, and wat is referring to person or people. So I will mention again that san or sane can be used in the exact same ways. So san quan snat or sane quan snat, that means what is your name, and muk sane or muk san for everyone. Stang, what? Stang quans echen, what are you doing or saying? So you could respond to this by saying, chai isen, I am working. You can use a verb and then a subject pronoun, in this case, son, for I. So you could use that like when referring to a lot of different situations. Or you could say, Echang lasan blank. So that means like, I said, and then you insert what you said. Again, so this breaks down to what, and then invisible article, your, un. There's an S nominalizer that's in purple. It attaches to the verb to say or to do, which is echang. And so steng kon echang. It's like what, the, your, say, or do. This is a super helpful phrase to learn to use in conversation. Another example I wanted to mention is steng och, which can translate to what is it? So steng, we already know means what, but this och is a part of the phrase that marks that the person asking the question is requesting that you give a response. So this is used in many sentences that start with what, when, whose, where, and who. And this is something that I learned through like seeing a lot of examples of questions, and also looking into what och actually meant in the Sinchothan Dictionary from Timothy Montler. Okay, Chuntang, when. Chuntang I yet. When are you going? Chuntang I yet. When are you going? So you could respond with Oppenwatch, 10 o'clock. You can reference times of day and hours by using the numbers from 1 to 12 and adding watch at the end. This word just comes from watch in English, referring to the hour marker on a watch or a clock. So would kind of mean like o'clock. So ngas watch, 4 o'clock, for example. So Juntang literally means it's a prefix that is time, and then tang is a root that comes out of the word stang for what. So it literally means like time of what is how we say when. And then for this phrase, breaking it down, when and then the e is a prefix before the verb that means in motion, and then go is the verb yet, and then is you. It's a subject pronoun. So yeah. Okay, achein, where. So I used two examples here that mean the same thing. Achein is where are you, and achein knak is also where are you. And you could respond to this with yet lasan la swimala. I went to the store. So you could use that sentence construction, yet lasan and just add whatever place you want. Satsu, beach. T'ok, home. So yeah, that's like a helpful little sentence construction that you can kind of insert whatever noun or place that you want. So getting into what these break down to, the first one, achein, is just where, and then subject pronoun you. The second one, we have an example of a standalone pronoun, nak. So in Amishkan, we have a few of these. I'll go over them in a later video, but for now, so nak means you, us means me, sningish means us. Those are some standalone pronouns, and the reason I say standalone is because they don't have to be connected to like a verb or another part of speech in order to work in a sentence or phrase. So achein knak means like basically like where the you. And you see again the invisible article because maybe I'm asking in this instance where you are and I can't see you. There's also reasons why I might be asking where you are. You're just not like right here in this conversation with two people. You might be across the room. So in that case, you could use the article tsa, which is like the visible article. And at the bottom, we have mak achain. So this is similar to how I talked about mukwat. So mukwat is everyone, and mukachain is everywhere. So it's kind of using this in a non-question form. Okay, aschaning, why or how? Aschaning, how are you? This is a common greeting. It uses the question word how and then the subject pronoun you. And you could respond to this by saying Aitzen, I am good. This is, again, like super helpful thing to know how to say, just to ask people how they are. Just to greet people when you first see them. So the last examples for today are for queen, how much or how many. Queen quans kumai. So how many dogs do you have? So you could respond to this with just llych or llych all, 3, just 3. So a number or a phrase llych san says kumai. I have 3. I have 3 dogs. There's also lexical suffixes that can be used to denote like how many of an object that you're talking about, how many people, for example, how many bags of something, how many cows, and I'll go over those in a different lesson, but that's also another way that you could answer a question like this. So for the breakdown, queen, how much, invisible article, possessive pronoun, in this case, your, and then skumai is just the word for dog. It's a noun for dog. And one thing to note that you don't have to pluralize words in Samish if the speaker knows what you're talking about, if it makes contextual sense. So that's different than English, where we're always using the plural marker. But also one thing to note is that when we pluralize things in Amishkan, it's also often referring to not necessarily, for example, we say hand or hands in English. Usually when we say hands, we're talking about our 2 hands. When you do the plural for hands in Amishkan, it's often referring to like a collective, so like a group of hands, like a lot of hands, not just maybe 2. So it's not usually as specific. That's one thing to note. And I'll go through how to pluralize different words in a later video. So the second example, Quella Queen, what time is it? This translates to presently or now. Then there's a question marker, which is kind of like, is it? And then queen, how many? So it's basically asking, how many minutes is it now? You could respond to this similar to how you responded to when did you go? So ngos, ngos wedge. So you could say like 4 o'clock, or we can get into telling time later and like specifics of like how you talk about like a quarter after, or how you talk about exactly how many minutes it's been. But we'll save that for a different time. Hi, thank you to those of you who joined me on YouTube for the full lesson. I hope this format of lessons in sequence is helpful. So, lang nog sinsa. I will see you next time on Het Oost Tsa